r/AskReddit. What's the most NSFW part of your job? Worked as a waiter at a fast casual restaurant where I had to call out the orders to the cooks. When a customer ordered a sundae without almonds, I quickly learned not to yell "hold the nuts." I used to work at a pretty large golf club with an 18-hole championship course, a driving range, a smaller practice course, the works. There are 2 9-hole loops on the championship course. In short, after 9 holes of golfing, you're back at the club and can start the second loop. The grounds were pretty open, and we didn't have a lot of forested areas. The architect's main goal here was to create a beautiful view from the restaurant. You could almost see the entire course. The amount of rich people I have seen taking a dump on the course, out in the open, is insane. We even had a chore related to cleaning up the more visible dumps. They tended to leave it marked with a few fluffy white tissues. A colleague of mine even found soiled woman's underwear. These people would pay a year's worth of my paycheck to become members, but never learned how to use the facilities properly, I guess. In another job I had, I helped some guy with his loyalty card over Twitter, and he replied with thanks and picture of his dick. Unsolicited dick pics to random businesses on social media are surprisingly common. I work for Ups. One of the trucks I load goes to a sex shop, and there is this one dildo manufacturer who doesn't know how to package them properly, so their boxes always break open. I work at a hotel that is placed right next to a place where furry conventions are held every year. Here is a list of things I've seen. A furry giving another furry a diaper change in the main hall and leaving the shit-filled diaper on the sofa. A furry walking to the front desk with his dick out, asking if we had any lube. A furry asking everyone he saw in the halls, even kids, if they could give him belly rubs with an obvious visible erection. A furry with very big boobs on their suit, asking every staff if she could breastfeed them for their hard work. And the rest are furries having orgies in their rooms and not knowing how to be quiet. I have nothing against furries, you do you. But please, for everyone's sake, please, don't bring your fetishes into the public viewing. Keep them in your hotel room and don't make too much of a noise. I worked as a DJ at a strip club in the early 2000s. At the end of the night there would be tons of empty snack-sized bags of chips just filled with jizz all over the floor. We sold snack-sized bags of chips. It was very dark in there. Dudes would just jerk it into chip bags. I don't talk about that part when describing my old jobs. Explaining to the client why his presentation drawing he paid a lot of money for is going to get him in trouble. You have to have pretty pictures before going in for a planning and zoning approval meeting. Having a pretty picture full of blonde-haired, blue-eyed, happy rich people when you're doing a revitalization project in a black ghetto isn't going to win you any favors. It will, however, get you accused of racism, which will shut the funding off in a big hurry. I work in a kitchen. I got my ass slapped with an entire salmon once. Bricklayer here. Another bricklayer was going around at tea and lunchtime and nailing people's toolboxes to the scaffold. He does this one day and proceeds to go home early and hides his tools very badly on the scaffold we were working on. So one of the blokes decides to take a shit in his toolbox and shut it up. This was on a Friday. It was there all weekend. I'm a former public high school teacher. I worked at one in a city school for 6 years. Students were frequently caught on school grounds having sex and smoking weed. Some even did it in areas where there were cameras, later justifying that they thought the cameras were fake. In one unfortunate incident, the nicest teacher I'd ever met walked in on 2 male students in the copy room. I later worked at suburban high schools where these things still happened, but with less frequency. Probably 510 teachers I got to know personally regularly smoked weed and were heavy drinkers. I was so stressed out from the job I had a drinking problem for a time. There was some sleeping around with teacher staff admin, single and married. I'm a trauma counselor at a children's advocacy center, so 90% of the children I see have been sexually abused. Hearing children talk about how their parent, grandparent, sibling, friend, teacher, etc. sexually abused them is something that would normally be NSFW. Trying not to giggle like a little kid when I see terms like steel erection on paperwork. Worked in VFX on a movie where one of the characters was a female wolf. However, For some reason the studio chose a male dog to play the part, so the dog's junk had to be edited out through the entire film. I also worked with someone who did VFX for the movie 300, and apparently a lot of hours were put into removing bowel sacs that weren't 100% covered by those costumes. Doing child safeguarding training every year. Seeing images of the bruises inside kids' mouths that were caused by an adult's penis. I run a dental practice. Jesus Christ, I have never remotely thought about a dentist having to be aware of this kind of shit. That is absolutely fucked. I work software development for a company that fulfills custom printed fabric items for other companies. Lots of naked pictures, anime, etc. go out. Also, a lot of these NSFW pictures end up having to be reprinted several times because they go missing on the factory floor. I frequently stand on the top step of a step stool. I also don't always keep 3 points of contact. I work in operations at a training center. We use waterless urinals in all the male bathrooms and they frequently get blocked by giant pus crystals. I'm not sure what chemical reaction occurs to make waterless urinals acceptable, but the fist-sizes pus that you have to remove every month or so are pretty grim. I see some shit in people's houses that has both disgusted and intrigued me. Just a tip for my fellow mammals here, put away the impromptu sex dungeon before you have someone like me stop by and give you an estimate on painting your house. Having middle-aged old men attempting to run one out through their pants while in the erotica section. I worked in a used bookstore. Edit, that and the times people have attempted to sell erotica books with water damage or worse sticky. Mildly traumatizing. I'm a mortician, so it would probably be quicker to list the parts of my job that aren't NSFW. I fill out lots of paperwork. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so that you can see when I upload new daily content. Goodbye.